Chapter 9. Twala the King. It will not be necessary for me to detail at length the incidents of our journey to Loo. It took 2 full days traveling along Solomon's Great Road, which pursued its even course right into the heart of Kukuana land. Suffice it to say that as we went, the country seemed to grow richer and richer, and the kraals, with their wide surrounding belts of cultivation, more and more numerous. They were all built upon the same principles as the first camp which we had reached, and were guarded by ample garrisons of troops. Indeed, in Kukuana land, as among the Germans, the Zulus, and the Maasai, every able-bodied man is a soldier, so that the whole force of the nation is available for its wars, offensive or defensive. As we traveled, we were overtaken by thousands of warriors hurrying up to Loo to be present at the great annual review and festival, and more splendid troops I never saw. At sunset on the second day, we stopped to rest a while upon the summit of some heights over which the road ran, and there on a beautiful and fertile plain before us lay Loo itself. For a native town, it is an enormous place, quite 5 miles round, I should say, with outlying kraals projecting from it that serve on grand occasions as cantonments for the regiments, and a curious horseshoe-shaped hill, with which we were destined to become better acquainted about 2 miles to the north. It is beautifully situated, and through the center of the kraal, dividing it into 2 portions, runs a river, which appeared to be bridged in several places, the same indeed that we had seen from the slopes of Sheba's breasts. 60 or 70 miles away, 3 great snow-capped mountains, placed at the points of a triangle, started out of the level plain. The conformation of these mountains is unlike that of Sheba's breasts, being sheer and precipitous instead of smooth and rounded. Infadus saw us looking at them and volunteered a remark. "The road ends there," he said, pointing to the mountains known among the Kukuanas as the 3 Witches. "Why does it end?" I asked. "Who knows?" he answered with a shrug. "The mountains are full of caves, and there is a great pit between them. It is there that the wise men of old time used to go to get whatever it was they came for to this country, and it is there now that our kings are buried in the place of death." "What was it they came for?" I asked eagerly. "Nay, I know not. My lords who have dropped from the stars should know," he answered with a quick look. Evidently he knew more than he chose to say. "Yes," I went on, "you are right. In the stars we learn many things. I have heard, for instance, that the wise men of old came to these mountains to find bright stones, pretty playthings, and yellow iron." "My lord is wise," he answered coldly. "I am but a child, and cannot talk with my lord on such matters. My lord must speak with Gagul the Old at the king's place, who is wise even as my lord," and he went away. So soon as he was gone, I turned to the others and pointed out the mountains. "There are Solomon's diamond mines," I said. Umbopa was standing with them, apparently plunged in one of the fits of abstraction which were common to him, and caught my words. "Yes, Macumazahn," he put in Zulu, "the diamonds are surely there, and you shall have them, since you white men are so fond of toys and money." "How dost thou know that, Umbopa?" I asked sharply, for I did not like his mysterious ways. He laughed. "I dreamed it in the night, white men." Then he, too, turned on his heel and went. "Now what," said Sir Henry, "is our black friend driving at? He knows more than he chooses to say, that is clear. By the way, Quatermain, has he heard anything of my brother?" "Nothing. He has asked everyone he has become friendly with, but they all declare that no white man has ever been seen in the country before." "Do you suppose that he got here at all?" suggested Good. "We have only reached the place by a miracle. Is it likely he could have reached it without the map?" "I don't know," said Sir Henry gloomily, "but somehow I think that I shall find him." Slowly the sun sank, then suddenly darkness rushed down on the land like a tangible thing. There was no breathing space between the day and night, no soft transformation scene, for in these latitudes twilight does not exist. The change from day to night is as quick and as absolute as the change from life to death. The sun sank and the world was wreathed in shadows. But not for long, for see in the west there is a glow, then come rays of silver light, and at last the full and glorious moon lights up the plain and shoots its gleaming arrows far and wide, filling the earth with a faint refulgence. We stood and watched the lovely sight, whilst the stars grew pale before this chastened majesty, and felt our hearts lifted up in the presence of a beauty that I cannot describe. Mine has been a rough life, but there are a few things I am thankful to have lived for, and one of them is to have seen that moon shine over Cuckoonaland. Presently our meditations were broken in upon by our polite friend Infadus. If my lords are rested, we will journey on to Loo, where a hut is made ready for my lords tonight. The moon is now bright, so that we shall not fall by the way. We assented, and in an hour's time were at the outskirts of the town, of which the extent, mapped out as it was by thousands of campfires, appeared absolutely endless. Indeed, Good, who is always fond of a bad joke, christened it Unlimited Loo. Soon we came to a moat with a drawbridge, where we were met by the rattling of arms and the hoarse challenge of a sentry. Infidus gave some password that I could not catch, which was met with a salute, and we passed on through the central street of the great grass city. After nearly half an hour's tramp, past endless lines of huts, Infidus halted at last by the gate of a little group of huts which surrounded a small courtyard of powdered limestone, and informed us that these were to be our poor quarters. We entered and found that a hut had been assigned to each of us. These huts were superior to any that we had yet seen, and in each was a most comfortable bed made of tanned skins spread upon mattresses of aromatic grass. Food, too, was ready for us, and so soon as we had washed ourselves with water, which stood ready in earthenware jars, some young women of handsome appearance brought us roasted meats and mealy cobs daintily served on wooden platters, and presented them to us with deep obeisances. We ate and drank, and then, the beds having been all moved into one hut by our request, a precaution at which the amiable young ladies smiled, we flung ourselves down to sleep, thoroughly wearied with our long journey. When we woke, it was to find the sun high in the heavens, and the female attendants, who did not seem to be troubled by any false shame, already standing inside the hut, having been ordered to attend and help us to make ready. "Make ready, indeed," growled Good. "When one has only a flannel shirt and a pair of boots, that does not take long. I wish you would ask them for my trousers, Quatermain." I asked accordingly, but was informed that these sacred relics had already been taken to the king, who would see us in the forenoon. Somewhat to their astonishment and disappointment, having requested the young ladies to step outside, we proceeded to make the best toilet of which the circumstances admitted. Good even went the length of again shaving the right side of his face. The left, on which now appeared a very fair crop of whiskers, we impressed upon him he must on no account touch. As for ourselves, we were contented with a good wash and combing our hair. Sir Henry's yellow locks were now almost upon his shoulders, and he looked more like an ancient Dane than ever, while my grizzled scrub was fully an inch long, instead of half an inch, which, in a general way, I considered my maximum length. By the time that we had eaten our breakfast and smoked a pipe, a message was brought to us by no less a personage than Infidus himself, that Twala the king was ready to see us, if we would be pleased to come. We remarked in reply that we should prefer to wait till the sun was a little higher, we were yet weary with our journey, etc., etc. It is always well, when dealing with uncivilized people, not to be in too great a hurry. They are apt to mistake politeness for awe or servility. So, although we were quite as anxious to see Twala as Twala could be to see us, we sat down and waited for an hour, employing the interval in preparing such presents as our slender stock of goods permitted. Namely, the Winchester rifle which had been used by poor Ventvogel, and some beads. The rifle and ammunition we determined to present to His Royal Highness, and the beads were for his wives and courtiers. We had already given a few to Infadus and Scragga and found that they were delighted with them, never having seen such things before. At length we declared that we were ready, and guided by Infadus, started off to the audience, Umbopa carrying the rifle and beads. After walking a few hundred yards, we came to an enclosure, something like that, surrounding the huts which had been allotted to us, only 50 times as big, for it could not have covered less than 6 or 7 acres of ground. All round the outside fence stood a row of huts, which were the habitations of the king's wives. Exactly opposite the gateway, on the further side of the open space, was a very large hut, built by itself, in which His Majesty resided. All the rest was open ground. That is to say, it would have been open had it not been filled by company after company of warriors, who were mustered there to the number of 7,000 or 8,000. These men stood still as statues as we advanced through them, and it would be impossible to give an adequate idea of the grandeur of the spectacle which they presented, with their waving plumes, their glancing spears, and iron-backed ox-hide shields. The space in front of the large hut was empty, but before it were placed several stools. On 3 of these, at a sign from Infidus, we seated ourselves, Umbopa standing behind us. As for Infidus, he took up a position by the door of the hut. So we waited for 10 minutes or more in the midst of a dead silence, but conscious that we were the object of the concentrated gaze of some 8,000 pairs of eyes. It was a somewhat trying ordeal, but we carried it off as best we could. At length the door of the hut opened, and a gigantic figure, with a splendid tiger-skin kaross flung over its shoulders, stepped out, followed by the boy Scragga, and what appeared to us to be a withered-up monkey wrapped in a fur cloak. The figure seated itself upon a stool, Scragga took his stand behind it, and the withered-up monkey crept on all fours into the shade of the hut and squatted down. Still there was silence. Then the gigantic figure slipped off the kaross and stood up before us, a truly alarming spectacle. It was that of an enormous man with the most entirely repulsive countenance we had ever beheld. This man's lips were as thick as a Negro's, the nose was flat, he had but one gleaming black eye, for the other was represented by a hollow in the face, and his whole expression was cruel and sensual to a degree. From the large head rose a magnificent plume of white ostrich feathers. His body was clad in a shirt of shining chain armor, whilst round the waist and right knee were the usual garnishes of white oxtail. In his right hand was a huge spear, about the neck a thick torque of gold, and bound on the forehead shone dully a single and enormous uncut diamond. Still there was silence, but not for long. Presently the man, whom we rightly guessed to be the king, raised the great javelin in his hand. Instantly 8,000 spears were lifted in answer, and from 8,000 throats rang out the royal salute of Coom. 3 times this was repeated, and each time the earth shook with the noise that can only be compared to the deepest notes of thunder. "Be humble, O people," piped out a thin voice which seemed to come from the monkey in the shade. "It is the king." "It is the king," boomed out the 8,000 throats in answer. "Be humble, O people, it is the king." Then there was silence again, dead silence. Presently, however, it was broken. A soldier on our left dropped his shield, which fell with a clatter onto the limestone flooring. Twala turned his one cold eye in the direction of the noise. "Come hither, thou," he said in a cold voice. A fine young man stepped out of the ranks and stood before him. "It was thy shield that fell, thou awkward dog. Wilt thou make me a reproach in the eyes of these strangers from the stars? What hast thou to say for thyself?" We saw the poor fellow turn pale under his dusky skin. "It was by chance, O calf of the black cow," he murmured. "Then it is a chance for which thou must pay. Thou hast made me foolish. Prepare for death." "I am the king's ox," was the low answer. "Scragga," roared the king, "let me see how thou canst use thy spear. Kill me, this blundering fool." Scragga stepped forward with an ill-favored grin, and lifted his spear. The poor victim covered his eyes with his hand, and stood still. As for us, we were petrified with horror. Once, twice, he waved the spear and then struck, right home. The spear stood out a foot behind the soldier's back. He flung up his hands and dropped dead. From the multitude about us rose something like a murmur. It rolled round and died away. The tragedy was finished. There lay the corpse, and we had not yet realized that it had been enacted. Sir Henry sprang up and swore a great oath, then, overpowered by the sense of silence, sat down again. "The thrust was a good one," said the king. "Take him away." 4 men stepped out of the ranks, and lifting the body of the murdered man, carried it thence. "Cover up the bloodstains, cover them up," piped out the thin voice that proceeded from the monkey-like figure. "The king's word is spoken, the king's doom is done." Thereupon a girl came forward from behind the hut, bearing a jar filled with powdered lime, which she scattered over the red mark, blotting it from sight. Sir Henry, meanwhile, was boiling with rage at what had happened. Indeed, it was with difficulty that we could keep him still. "Sit down, for heaven's sake," I whispered. "Our lives depend on it." He yielded and remained quiet. Twala sat silent until the traces of the tragedy had been removed. Then he addressed us. "White people," he said, "who come hither, whence I know not and why I know not, greeting." "Greeting, Twala, king of the Kukuanas," I answered. "White people, whence come ye, and what seek ye?" "We come from the stars. Ask us not how. We come to see this land." "Ye journey from far to see a little thing. And that man with you," pointing to Umbopa, "does he also come from the stars?" "Even so. There are people of thy color in the heavens above, but ask not of matters too high for thee, Twala the king." "Ye speak with a loud voice, people of the stars," Twala answered in a tone which I scarcely liked. "Remember that the stars are far off, and ye are here. How if I make you as him whom they bore away?" I laughed out loud, though there was little laughter in my heart. "O king," I said, "be careful, walk warily over hot stones, lest thou shouldst burn thy feet. Hold the spear by the handle, lest thou should cut thy hands. Touch but one hair of our heads, and destruction shall come upon thee. What have not these?" Pointing to Infadus and Scragga, who, young villain that he was employed in cleaning the blood of the soldier off his spear. "Told thee what manner of men we are? Hast thou seen the like of us?" And I pointed to Good, feeling quite sure that he had never seen anybody before who looked in the least like him, as he then appeared. "It is true, I have not," said the king, surveying Good with interest. "Have they not told thee how we strike with death from afar?" I went on. "They have told me, but I believe them not. Let me see you kill. Kill me a man among those who stand yonder," and he pointed to the opposite side of the kraal, "and I will believe." "Nay," I answered, "we shed no blood of men except in just punishment, but if thou wilt see, bid thy servants drive in an ox through the kraal gates, and before he has run 20 paces, I will strike him dead." "Nay," laughed the king, "kill me a man, and I will believe." "Good, O king, so be it," I answered coolly. "Do thou walk across the open space, and before thy feet reach the gate, thou shalt be dead. Or if thou wilt not, send thy son Scragga, whom at that moment it would have given me much pleasure to shoot." On hearing this suggestion, Scragga uttered a sort of howl and bolted into the hut. Twala frowned majestically. The suggestion did not please him. "Let a young ox be driven in," he said. 2 men at once departed, running swiftly. "Now, Sir Henry," said I, "do you shoot. I want to show this ruffian that I am not the only magician of the party." Sir Henry accordingly took his express and made ready. "I hope I shall make a good shot," he groaned. "You must," I answered. "If you miss with the first barrel, let him have the second. Sight for 150 yards, and wait till the beast turns broadside on." Then came a pause, until presently we caught sight of an ox running straight for the kraal gate. It came on through the gate, then, catching sight of the vast concourse of people, stopped stupidly, turned round, and bellowed. "Now's your time," I whispered. Up went the rifle. Bang, thud, and the ox was kicking on his back, shot in the ribs. The semi-hollow bullet had done its work well, and a sigh of astonishment went up from the assembled thousands. I turned round coolly. "Have I lied, O king?" "Nay, white man, it is the truth," was the somewhat odd answer. "Listen, Twala," I went on, "thou hast seen. Now know we come in peace, not in war. See," and I held up the Winchester repeater, "here is a hollow staff that shall enable thee to kill even as we kill, only I lay this charm upon it, thou shalt kill no man with it. If thou liftest it against a man, it shall kill thee. Stay, I will show thee. Bid a soldier step 40 paces and place the shaft of a spear in the ground so that the flat blade looks towards us." In a few seconds it was done. "Now, see, I will break yonder spear." Taking a careful sight, I fired. The bullet struck the flat of the spear and shattered the blade into fragments. Again the sigh of astonishment went up. "Now, Twala, we give this magic tube to thee, and by and by I will show thee how to use it. But beware how thou turnest the magic of the stars against a man of earth," and I handed him the rifle. The king took it very gingerly and laid it down at his feet. As he did so, I observed the wizened, monkey-like figure creeping from the shadow of the hut. It crept on all fours, but when it reached the place where the king sat, it rose upon its feet, and throwing the furry covering from its face, revealed a most extraordinary and weird countenance. Apparently it was that of a woman of great age, so shrunken that in size it seemed no larger than the face of a year-old child, although made up of a number of deep and yellow wrinkles. Set in these wrinkles was a sunken slit that represented the mouth, beneath which the chin curved outwards to a point. There was no nose to speak of. Indeed, the visage might have been taken for that of a sun-dried corpse had it not been for a pair of large black eyes, still full of fire and intelligence, which gleamed and played under the snow-white eyebrows, and the projecting parchment-colored skull, like jewels in a charnel house. As for the head itself, it was perfectly bare and yellow in hue, while its wrinkled scalp moved and contracted like the hood of a cobra. The figure to which this fearful countenance belonged, a countenance so fearful indeed that it caused a shiver of fear to pass through us as we gazed on it, stood still for a moment. Then, suddenly it projected a skinny claw, armed with nails nearly an inch long, and laying it on the shoulder of Twala the king, began to speak in a thin and piercing voice. "Listen, O king! Listen, O warriors! Listen, O mountains and plains and rivers, home of the Kukuana race! Listen, O skies and sun, O rain and storm and mist! Listen, O men and women, O youths and maidens, and O ye babes unborn! Listen, all things that live and must die! Listen, all dead things that shall live again, again to die! Listen, the spirit of life is in me, and I prophesy, I prophesy, I prophesy." The words died away in a faint wail, and dread seemed to seize upon the hearts of all who heard them, including our own. This old woman was very terrible. Blood, 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 rivers of blood, blood everywhere. I see it, I smell it, I taste it. It is salt, it runs red upon the ground, it rains down from the skies. Footsteps, 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 the tread of the white man coming from afar. It shakes the earth trembles before her master. Blood is good, the red blood is bright. There is no smell like the smell of new shed blood. The lions shall lap it and roar, the vultures shall wash their wings in it and shriek with joy. I am old, I have seen much blood, ha ha, but I shall see more ere I die and be merry. How old am I, think ye? Your fathers knew me, and their fathers knew me, and their fathers' fathers' fathers. I have seen the white man and know his desires. I am old, but the mountains are older than I. Who made the great road, tell me? Who wrote the pictures on the rocks, tell me? Who reared up the three silent ones yonder, that gaze across the pit, tell me? And she pointed towards the three precipitous mountains which we had noticed on the previous night. Ye know not, but I know. It was a white people who were before ye are, who shall be when ye are not, who shall eat you up and destroy you. Yea, yea, yea. And what came they for? The white ones, the terrible ones, the skilled in magic and all learning, the strong, the unswerving. What is that bright stone upon thy forehead, O king, whose hands made the iron garments upon thy breast, O king? Ye know not, but I know, I, the old one, I, the wise one, I, the Isanusi, the witch doctress. Then she turned her bald vulture head towards us. What seek ye, white men of the stars? Ah, yes, of the stars. Do ye seek a lost one? Ye shall not find him here. He is not here. Never for ages upon ages has a white foot pressed this land, never except once, and I remember that he left it but to die. Ye come for bright stones, I know it. I know it. Ye shall find them when the blood is dry. But shall ye return whence ye came, or shall ye stop with me? Ha, ha, ha! And thou with the dark skin and the proud bearing, and she pointed her skinny finger at Umbopa, who art thou, and what seekest thou? Not stones that shine, not yellow metal that gleams, these thou leavest to white men from the stars. Methinks I know thee, methinks I can smell the smell of the blood in thy heart. Strip off the girdle. Here the features of this extraordinary creature became convulsed, and she fell to the ground foaming in an epileptic fit, and was carried into the hut. The king rose up trembling and waved his hand. Instantly the regiments began to file off, and in 10 minutes, save for ourselves, the king, and a few attendants, the great space was left empty. White people, he said, it passes in my mind to kill you. Gagul has spoken strange words. What say ye? I laughed. Be careful, O king, we are not easy to slay. Thou hast seen the fate of the ox. Wouldst thou be as the ox is? The king frowned. It is not well to threaten a king. We threaten not. We speak what is true. Try to kill us, O king, and learn. The great savage put his hand to his forehead and thought. Go in peace, he said at length. Tonight is the great dance. Ye shall see it. Fear not that I shall set a snare for you. Tomorrow I will think. It is well, O king, I answered unconcernedly, and then, accompanied by Infidus, we rose and went back to our kraal. Chapter 10. The Witch Hunt. On reaching our hut, I motioned to Infidus to enter with us. Now, Infidus, I said, we would speak with thee. Let my lords say on. It seems to us, Infidus, that Twala the king is a cruel man. It is so, my lords. Alas, the land cries out because of his cruelties. Tonight ye shall see. It is the great witch hunt, and many will be smelt out as wizards and slain. No man's life is safe. If the king covets a man's cattle, or a man's wife, or if he fears a man that he should excite a rebellion against him, then Gagul, whom ye saw, or some of the witch-finding women whom she has taught, will smell that man out as a wizard, and he will be killed. Many must die before the moon grows pale tonight. It is ever so. Perhaps I too shall be killed. As yet I have been spared because I am skilled in war and am beloved by the soldiers, but I know not how long I have to live. The land groans at the cruelties of Twala the king. It is wearied of him and his red ways. Then why is it, Infidus, that the people do not cast him down? Nay, my lords, he is the king, and if he were killed, Scragga would reign in his place, and the heart of Scragga is blacker than the heart of Twala his father. If Scragga were king, his yoke upon our neck would be heavier than the yoke of Twala. If Imotu had never been slain, or if Ignosi his son had lived, it might have been otherwise, but they are both dead. "How knowest thou that Ignosi is dead?" said a voice behind us. We looked round astonished to see who spoke. It was Umbopa. "What meanest thou, boy?" asked Infidus. "Who told thee to speak?" "Listen, Infidus," was the answer, "and I will tell thee a story. Years ago the king Imotu was killed in this country and his wife fled with the boy Ignosi. Is it not so?" "It is so." "It was said that the woman and her son died upon the mountains. Is it not so?" "It is even so." Well, it came to pass that the mother and the boy Ignosi did not die. They crossed the mountains and were led by a tribe of wandering desert men across the sands beyond, till at last they came to water and grass and trees again. How knowest thou this? Listen. They traveled on and on, many months' journey, till they reached a land where a people called the Amazulu, who also are of the Kukuana stock, live by war, and with them they tarried many years, till at length the mother died. Then the son Ignosi became a wanderer again, and journeyed into a land of wonders, where white people live, and for many more years he learned the wisdom of the white people. "It is a pretty story," said Infidus incredulously. For years he lived there working as a servant and a soldier, but holding in his heart all that his mother had told him of his own place, and casting about in his mind to find how he might journey thither to see his people and his father's house before he died. For long years he lived and waited, and at last the time came, as it ever comes to him who can wait for it, and he met some white men who would seek this unknown land, and joined himself to them. The white men started and traveled on and on, seeking for one who was lost. They crossed the burning desert, they crossed the snow-clad mountains, and at last reached the land of the Kukuanas, and there they found thee, O Infidus. "Surely thou art mad to talk thus," said the astonished old soldier. "Thou thinkest so. See, I will show thee, O my uncle. I am Ignosi, rightful king of the Kukuanas." Then, with a single movement, Umbopa slipped off his muka, or girdle, and stood naked before us. "Look," he said, "what is this?" And he pointed to the picture of a great snake tattooed in blue round his middle, its tail disappearing into its open mouth just above where the thighs are set into the body. Infidus looked, his eyes starting nearly out of his head. Then he fell upon his knees. "Coom, Coom," he ejaculated, "it is my brother's son, it is the king. Did I not tell thee so, my uncle? Rise. I am not yet the king, but with thy help, and with the help of these brave white men, who are my friends, I shall be. Yet the old witch Gagul was right. The land shall run with blood first, and hers shall run with it, if she has any and can die, for she killed my father with her words, and drove my mother forth. And now, Infidus, choose thou. Wilt thou put thy hands between my hands and be my man? Wilt thou share the dangers that lie before me, and help me to overthrow this tyrant and murderer, or wilt thou not? Choose thou." The old man put his hand to his head and thought. Then he rose, and advancing to where Umbopa, or rather Ignosi, stood, he knelt before him and took his hand. "Ignosi, rightful king of the Kukuanas, I put my hand between thy hands, and am thy man till death. When thou wast a babe, I dandled thee upon my knees. Now shall my old arms strike for thee and freedom. It is well, Infidus. If I conquer, thou shalt be the greatest man in the kingdom after its king. If I fail, thou canst only die, and death is not far off from thee. Rise, my uncle. And ye, white men, will ye help me? What have I to offer you? The white stones. If I conquer and can find them, ye shall have as many as ye can carry hence. Will that suffice you?" I translated this remark. "Tell him," answered Sir Henry, "that he mistakes an Englishman. Wealth is good, and if it comes in our way, we will take it. But a gentleman does not sell himself for wealth. Still, speaking for myself, I say this. I have always liked Umbopa, and so far as lies in me, I will stand by him in this business. It will be very pleasant to me to try to square matters with that cruel devil Twala. What do you say, Good, and you, Quatermain?" "Well," said Good, "to adopt the language of hyperbole, in which all these people seem to indulge, you can tell him that a roe is surely good, and warms the cockles of the heart, and that so far as I am concerned, I'm his boy. My only stipulation is that he allows me to wear trousers." I translated the substance of these answers. "It is well, my friends," said Ignosi, late Umbopa, "and what sayest thou, Macumazahn? Art thou also with me, old hunter, cleverer than a wounded buffalo?" I thought a while, and scratched my head. "Umbopa, or Ignosi," I said, "I don't like revolutions. I am a man of peace and a bit of a coward." Here Umbopa smiled, "But, on the other hand, I stick up for my friends, Ignosi. You have stuck to us and played the part of a man, and I will stick by you. But mind you, I am a trader and have to make my living, so I accept your offer about those diamonds in case we should ever be in a position to avail ourselves of it. Another thing, we came, as you know, to look for Incubu's, Sir Henry's, lost brother. You must help us to find him." "That I will do," answered Ignosi. "Stay, Infidus, by the sign of the snake about my middle, tell me the truth. Has any white man to thy knowledge set his foot within the land?" "None, O Ignosi." "If any white man had been seen or heard of, wouldst thou have known?" "I should certainly have known." "Thou hearest, Incubu," said Ignosi to Sir Henry, "he has not been here." "Well, well," said Sir Henry with a sigh, "there it is. I suppose that he never got so far. Poor fellow, so it has all been for nothing. God's will be done." "Now for business," I put in, anxious to escape from a painful subject. "It is very well to be a king by right divine, Ignosi, but how dost thou propose to become a king indeed?" "Nay, I know not. Infadus, hast thou a plan?" "Ignosi, son of the lightning," answered his uncle, "tonight is the great dance and witch hunt. Many shall be smelt out and perish, and in the hearts of many others there will be grief and anguish and fury against the king Twala. When the dance is over, then I will speak to some of the great chiefs, who, in turn, if I can win them over, will speak to their regiments. I shall speak to the chiefs softly at first, and bring them to see that thou art indeed the king, and I think that by tomorrow's light thou shalt have 20,000 spears at thy command. And now I must go and think and hear and make ready. After the dance is done, if I am yet alive, and we are all alive, I will meet thee here, and we can talk. At the best, there must be war." At this moment our conference was interrupted by the cry that messengers had come from the king. Advancing to the door of the hut, we ordered that they should be admitted, and presently 3 men entered, each bearing a shining shirt of chain armor and a magnificent battle-axe. "The gifts of my lord the king to the white men from the stars," said a herald who came with them. "We thank the king," I answered. "Withdraw." The men went, and we examined the armor with great interest. It was the most wonderful chainwork that either of us had ever seen. A whole coat fell together so closely that it formed a mass of links scarcely too big to be covered with both hands. "Do you make these things in this country, Infadus?" I asked. "They are very beautiful." "Nay, my lord, they came down to us from our forefathers. We know not who made them, and there are but few left. None but those of royal blood may be clad in them. They are magic coats through which no spear can pass, and those who wear them are well nigh safe in the battle. The king is well pleased or much afraid, or he would not have sent these garments of steel. Clothe yourselves in them tonight, my lords." The remainder of that day we spent quietly, resting and talking over the situation, which was sufficiently exciting. At last the sun went down, the 1,000 watch-fires glowed out, and through the darkness we heard the tramp of many feet and the clashing of hundreds of spears as the regiments passed to their appointed places to be ready for the great dance. Then the full moon shone out in splendor, and as we stood watching her rays, Infidus arrived, clad in his war dress, and accompanied by a guard of 20 men to escort us to the dance. As he recommended, we had already donned the shirts of chain armor which the king had sent us, putting them on under our ordinary clothing, and finding to our surprise that they were neither very heavy nor uncomfortable. These steel shirts, which evidently had been made for men of a very large stature, hung somewhat loosely upon Good and myself, but Sir Henry's fitted his magnificent frame like a glove. Then, strapping our revolvers round our waists, and taking in our hands the battle-axes which the king had sent with the armor, we started. On arriving at the great kraal, where we had that morning been received by the king, we found that it was closely packed with some 20,000 men arranged round it in regiments. These regiments were in turn divided into companies, and between each company ran a little path to allow space for the witch-finders to pass up and down. Anything more imposing than the sight that was presented by this vast and orderly concourse of armed men it is impossible to conceive. There they stood, perfectly silent, and the moon poured her light upon the forest of their raised spears, upon their majestic forms, waving plumes, and the harmonious shading of their various colored shields. Wherever we looked were line upon line of dim faces surmounted by range upon range of shimmering spears. "Surely," I said to Infidus, "the whole army is here?" "Nay, Macumazahn," he answered, "but a third of it. 1/3 is present at this dance each year, another third is mustered outside in case there should be trouble when the killing begins, 10,000 more garrison the outposts round Loo, and the rest watch at the kraals in the country. Thou seest it is a great people." "They are very silent," said Good, and indeed the intense stillness among such a vast concourse of living men was almost overpowering. "What says Bhugwan?" asked Infidus. I translated. "Those over whom the shadow of death is hovering are silent," he answered grimly. "Will many be killed?" "Very many." "It seems," I said to the others, "that we are going to assist at a gladiatorial show arranged regardless of expense." Sir Henry shivered, and Good said he wished that we could get out of it. "Tell me," I asked Infidus, "are we in danger?" "I know not, my lords, I trust not, but do not seem afraid. If ye live through the night, all may go well with you. The soldiers murmur against the king." All this while we had been advancing steadily towards the center of the open space, in the midst of which were placed some stools. As we proceeded, we perceived another small party coming from the direction of the royal hut. "It is the King Twala, Scragga his son, and Gugul the old. And see, with them are those who slay," said Infidus, pointing to a little group of about a dozen gigantic and savage-looking men, armed with spears in one hand and heavy carries in the other. The king seated himself upon the center stool, Gugul crouched at his feet, and the others stood behind him. "Greeting, white lords," Twala cried as we came up. "Be seated, waste not precious time. The night is all too short for the deeds that must be done. Ye come in a good hour, and shall see a glorious show. Look round, white lords, look round." And he rolled his one wicked eye from regiment to regiment. "Can the stars show you such a sight as this? See how they shake in their wickedness, all those who have evil in their hearts and fear the judgment of heaven above." "Begin, begin," piped Gugul in her thin, piercing voice. "The hyenas are hungry, they howl for food. Begin, begin." Then for a moment there was intense stillness, made horrible by a presage of what was to come. The king lifted his spear, and suddenly 20,000 feet were raised, as though they belonged to one man, and brought down with a stamp upon the earth. This was repeated 3 times, causing the solid ground to shake and tremble. Then, from a far point of the circle, a solitary voice began a wailing song, of which the refrain ran something as follows: "What is the lot of man born of woman?" Back came the answer, rolling out from every throat in that vast company: "Death." Gradually, however, the song was taken up by company after company, till the whole armed multitude were singing it, and I could no longer follow the words, except insofar as they appeared to represent various phases of human passions, fears, and joys. Now it seemed to be a love song, now a majestic, swelling war chant, and last of all, a death dirge ending suddenly in one heartbreaking wail that went echoing and rolling away in a volume of blood-curdling sound. Again silence fell upon the place, and again it was broken by the king lifting his hand. Instantly we heard a pattering of feet, and from out of the masses of warriors strange and awful figures appeared running towards us. As they drew near, we saw that these were women, most of them aged, for their white hair, ornamented with small bladders taken from fish, streamed out behind them. Their faces were painted in stripes of white and yellow. Down their backs hung snakeskins, and round their waists rattled circlets of human bones, while each held a small forked wand in her shriveled hand. In all, there were 10 of them. When they arrived in front of us, they halted, and one of them, pointing with her wand towards the crouching figure of Gagul, cried out, "Mother, old mother, we are here." "Good, good, good," answered that aged iniquity. "Are your eyes keen, Isanusis witch doctresses, ye seers in dark places?" "Mother, they are keen." "Good, good, good. Are your ears open, Isanusis, ye who hear words that come not from the tongue?" "Mother, they are open." "Good, good, good. Are your senses awake, Isanusis? Can ye smell blood? Can ye purge the land of the wicked ones who compass evil against the king and against their neighbors? Are ye ready to do the justice of heaven above, ye whom I have taught, who have eaten of the bread of my wisdom and drunk of the water of my magic?" "Mother, we can." "Then go, tarry not, ye vultures. See, the slayers," pointing to the ominous group of executioners behind. "Make sharp their spears. The white men from afar are hungry to see. Go." With a wild yell, Gagul's horrid ministers broke away in every direction, like fragments from a shell, the dry bones round their waists rattling as they ran, and headed for various points of the dense human circle. We could not watch them all, so we fixed our eyes upon the Isanusi nearest to us. When she came to within a few paces of the warriors, she halted and began to dance wildly, turning round and round with an almost incredible rapidity, and shrieking out sentences such as, "I smell him, the evil-doer. He is near, he who poisoned his mother. I hear the thoughts of him who thought evil of the king." Quicker and quicker she danced, till she lashed herself into such a frenzy of excitement that the foam flew in specks from her gnashing jaws, till her eyes seemed to start from her head and her flesh to quiver visibly. Suddenly she stopped dead and stiffened all over, like a pointer dog when he scents game, and then with outstretched wand she began to creep stealthily towards the soldiers before her. It seemed to us that as she came, their stoicism gave way, and that they shrank from her. As for ourselves, we followed her movements with a horrible fascination. Presently, still creeping and crouching like a dog, the Isanusi was before them. Then she halted and pointed, and again crept on a pace or two. Suddenly the end came. With a shriek she sprang in and touched a tall warrior with her forked wand. Instantly 2 of his comrades, those standing immediately next to him, seized the doomed man, each by one arm, and advanced with him towards the king. He did not resist, but we saw that he dragged his limbs as though they were paralyzed, and that his fingers, from which the spear had fallen, were limp like those of a man newly dead. As he came, 2 of the villainous executioners stepped forward to meet him. Presently they met, and the executioners turned round, looking towards the king as though for orders. "Kill," said the king. "Kill," squeaked Gagul. "Kill," re-echoed Scragga with a hollow chuckle. Almost before the words were uttered, the horrible deed was done. One man had driven his spear into the victim's heart, and to make assurance double sure, the other had dashed out his brains with a great club. 1, counted Twala the king, just like a black Madame Defarge, as Good said, and the body was dragged a few paces away and stretched out. Hardly was the thing done before another poor wretch was brought up, like an ox to the slaughter. This time we could see from the leopard skin cloak which he wore that the man was a person of rank. Again the awful syllables were spoken, and the victim fell dead. 2, counted the king, and so the deadly game went on, till about 100 bodies were stretched in rows behind us. I have heard of the gladiatorial shows of the Kaisers and of the Spanish bullfights, but I take the liberty of doubting if either of them could be half so horrible as this Kukuana witch hunt. Gladiatorial shows and Spanish bullfights, at any rate, contributed to the public amusement, which certainly was not the case here. The most confirmed sensation-monger would fight shy of sensation if he knew that it was well on the cards that he would, in his own proper person, be the subject of the next event. Once we rose and tried to remonstrate, but were sternly repressed by Twala. "Let the law take its course, white men. These dogs are magicians and evildoers. It is well that they should die," was the only answer vouchsafed to us. About 10:30 there was a pause. The witch-finders gathered themselves together, apparently exhausted with their bloody work, and we thought that the performance was done with. But it was not so, for presently, to our surprise, the ancient woman, Gagul, rose from her crouching position and, supporting herself with a stick, staggered off into the open space. It was an extraordinary sight to see this frightful, vulture-headed old creature, bent nearly double with extreme age, gather strength by degrees, until at last she rushed about almost as actively as her ill-omened pupils. To and fro she ran, chanting to herself, till suddenly she made a dash at a tall man standing in front of one of the regiments and touched him. As she did this, a sort of groan went up from the regiment, which evidently he commanded. But 2 of its officers seized him all the same and brought him up for execution. We learned afterwards that he was a man of great wealth and importance, being indeed a cousin of the king. He was slain, and Twala counted 103. Then Gagul again sprang to and fro, gradually drawing nearer and nearer to ourselves. "Hang me if I don't believe she is going to try her games on us," ejaculated Good in horror. "Nonsense," said Sir Henry. As for myself, when I saw that old fiend dancing nearer and nearer, my heart positively sank into my boots. I glanced behind us at the long rows of corpses and shivered. Nearer and nearer waltzed Gagul, looking for all the world like an animated crooked stick or comma, her horrid eyes gleaming and glowing with a most unholy luster. Nearer she came, and yet nearer, every creature in that vast assemblage watching her movements with intense anxiety. At last she stood still and pointed. "Which is it to be?" asked Sir Henry to himself. In a moment all doubts were at rest, for the old hag had rushed in and touched Umbopa, alias Ignosi, on the shoulder. "I smell him out," she shrieked. Kill him, he is full of evil. Kill him, the stranger, before blood flows from him. Slay him, O king." There was a pause, of which I instantly took advantage. "O king," I called out, rising from my seat, "this man is the servant of thy guests. He is their dog. Whosoever sheds the blood of our dog sheds our blood. By the sacred law of hospitality, I claim protection for him. Gagul, mother of the witch-finders, has smelt him out. He must die, white men," was the sullen answer. "Nay, he shall not die," I replied. "He who tries to touch him shall die indeed." "Seize him!" roared Twala to the executioners, who stood round red to the eyes with the blood of their victims. They advanced towards us and then hesitated. As for Ignosi, he clutched his spear and raised it as though determined to sell his life dearly. "Stand back, ye dogs," I shouted, "if ye would see tomorrow's light. Touch one hair of his head and your king dies," and I covered Twala with my revolver. Sir Henry and Good also drew their pistols, Sir Henry pointing his at the leading executioner who was advancing to carry out the sentence, and Good taking a deliberate aim at Gagul. Twala winced perceptibly as my barrel came in a line with his broad chest. "Well," I said, "what is it to be, Twala?" Then he spoke. "Put away your magic tubes," he said. "Ye have adjured me in the name of hospitality, and for that reason, but not from fear of what ye can do, I spare him. Go in peace." "It is well," I answered unconcernedly. "We are weary of slaughter and would sleep. Is the dance ended?" "It is ended," Twala answered sulkily. "Let these dead dogs," pointing to the long rows of corpses, "be flung out to the hyenas and the vultures," and he lifted his spear. Instantly the regiments began to defile through the kraal gateway in perfect silence, a fatigue party only remaining behind to drag away the corpses of those who had been sacrificed. Then we rose also, and making our salam to His Majesty, which he hardly deigned to acknowledge, we departed to our huts. "Well," said Sir Henry as we sat down, having first lit a lamp of the sort used by the Kukuanas, of which the wick is made from the fiber of a species of palm leaf and the oil from clarified hippopotamus fat, "well, I feel uncommonly inclined to be sick." If I had any doubts about helping Umbopa to rebel against that infernal blackguard, put in Good, they are gone now. It was as much as I could do to sit still while that slaughter was going on. I tried to keep my eyes shut, but they would open just at the wrong time. I wonder where Infiduz is. Umbopa, my friend, you ought to be grateful to us. Your skin came near to having an air hole made in it. "I am grateful, Bugwan," was Umbopa's answer when I had translated, "and I shall not forget. As for Infiduz, he will be here by and by. We must wait." So we lit our pipes and waited.